Hi everyone, it's Katja, and today I'm going to be talking about a book that was published in 2014 as the debut novel of playwright Laline Paull. It is called The Bees, and it is a dystopian thriller. Set in a beehive based on real honeybee biology, and while some liberties in that biology may have been taken to lend a human slant to the actions of the bees, class, caste, and motherly love are common stories in our repertoire. Still, we never actually lose the sense of the bees being other and different. So there's a brilliant balance of the reader being able to experience the alienness, is that a word? An alienness of the interactions between the different bees within this ancient society, while still being able to relate to the main character. Now, this main character is fascinating. She is the protagonist in the form of a fascinating worker bee, Flora 717, born into the hive when it's on the brink of change. She is part of the lowest caste of this totalitarian, I can hardly say it, totalitarian society. Except obey, serve is the motto drilled into every bee's mind several times a day. And from the moment that she is born, we're there as the reader, and we sense danger all around her. As she smashes her way out of the pupating cell, her sister worker bees are delicately emerging, already, keen in their sense of being part of the lower caste and not being seen, not being heard. They sort of are born to blend into the background and do all the dirty work in the hive. Yet Flora is totally different. She emerges with this power, and in contrast to their delicateness, she is too big, she is too dark, she is too furry. She is also always in danger of being executed by the hive police, who are actually sort of more fertility police to a certain extent, because that seems to be their main focus. But they do dispatch bees for various transgressions. However, as I said, the worst offences seem to be related to fertility, and that is because only the queen can give birth. However, even when the queen gives birth, they do not allow for deformity and variation. Flora 717 is saved from the police, and if you're intending reading this book, I'm not going to tell you the how, why, and whom by, because that's an interesting twist. Now, suffice to say that Flora 717 is very strong and a quick learner. The biggest surprise to the other bees is her ability to actually speak, while the others in her caste are mute. Now, the world building is fabulous, so that's really, really strong. Whether the scene is based in the hive or actually takes you outside of the hive, it is just fascinating to actually have your perspective sort of played with as a reader. So you get to experience the different perspective, obviously imagined by the author, but her imagination around what the bee's perspective is. We've suddenly have our world reimagined into bee-sized form. I don't know how else to describe this, but it's really good to have this, suddenly the world seems otherworldly. In no time, Flora 717 is given an unprecedented opportunity to leave her humble origins behind, and she soon rockets through all of the different stages, or ranks, that's a better word, through all the different ranks within the hive. Now, usually you have very dedicated roles, but instead Flora gets to do things like feeding newborns, tending young grubs, encountering their malenesses, a word for the male drones. And these male drones are rather lazy, but there's such a twist in the story that makes me go from thinking, oh goodness, they are so rotten. These, they're taking advantage of the hard work of all of these other drones or other bees. But these malenesses are expected to leave the hive at some point, and their duty is to mate with princess bees from other hives. Finally, after an act of tremendous courage, Flora gets to meet the queen herself, which is a privilege that, loads of bees cannot even imagine. But here is where the sense of unease ratchets up even more. The pace of this book swaps wonderfully between calmer periods where the reader traverses the somewhat eerie hive landscape and periods in which the threat to Flora herself and other bees is palpable. It's a fascinating maze of a miniature world. Horror lurks at the heart of the bee's very existence, and Flora, though she doesn't know it, embodies both the greatest threat to her hive and perhaps their salvation. Alternately fast-tracked and then pulled back and shamed, raised up and praised and then flung down into adversity, only to be permitted access to places no other bees could dream of. She has got a roller coaster ride of a life for a bee. Flora 717 is disturbingly different, and for various reasons she soon finds out that she's going to have to live a double life. So while she is loyal to the queen and is a loyal member of the society, she has yet to behave like a traitor as well, because she needs to struggle to survive the fertility police and the religious cult. Some parts are almost humorous, and that's a good thing because, this is a hive in crisis, and like I say, you really feel the tension within the hive and the outside world. Everything is such a stressor. Now, is Flora the solution or another threat to the British honeybee? After reading the book, I came to realize how much research the author actually did to write this. Her opening and closing scenes have a beekeeper and beekeeper family, and to a certain extent you might wonder, is this really necessary? But actually those scenes hint at the bigger picture of the honeybee being just one species of bee, that as always humans can miss the bigger picture by not looking at the wider picture. So we're focusing on honeybees, but there are a number of different species of bees out there, and also there are a number of different pollinators, and our focus on keeping honeybees can have a detrimental effect on other bees. Now, Flora also comes into it from a different perspective, and I'll link some resources in the video description, and that will expand on some of the themes highlighted in this book, because if I talk about them here right now, it will be a spoiler for the book. If you get an opportunity to read the bees, then do come back, click on those links, and you can be fascinated about the amount of research that went into it. If it were a thing to tag people to read a book, then I would tag Bethanne Bruninga Socolar, because she'd be an amazing person to hear thoughts from on this one. Bethanne's channel is linked in the video description. She researches plant pollinator communities and more. Thanks so much for joining me on this review. Take care.